and welcome to AI've Got Questions. I'm Stacey Epstein, your host. I'm a former CEO and four-time CMO, and I am in awe at how much AI is transforming our profession. I created this podcast to help expose some of the incredible new technologies and the amazing new ways we're doing work with AI in marketing and in go-to-market in general. I hope you enjoy the show. Here's the next episode. Today on the show, we have Quinn Favret, who is the COO and co-founder of Tavis. Welcome to the show, Quinn.
Hey, Stacey. Good to see you. I'm happy to be here. I'm amped.
Awesome. Happy to have you. And if anyone has happened to watch us on YouTube today, you'll see I'm in a different location, and this location doesn't have as good a Wi-Fi. So I might be coming and going, but I think Quinn has a strong connection, and that's what matters. So let's get going.
Perfect. It's golden.
Exactly. Quinn, tell us about you. Tell us about your journey. What did you do before Tavis, and how did you get to where you are now?
Oh gosh, tell us about you. That's quite the kickoff question. So it starts a long time ago. So my grandparents immigrated from Armenia to Michigan during the genocide. So was born and raised in Michigan. My parents, my dad didn't go to college. My mom was working as an accountant. So growing up, I was always the principles of hard work and make what you want to happen in the world happen. But where I think a lot of founders grew up with software coding, always hacking background. For me, it was still building, but it was in a very different way. I was building robotics in the garage, tree houses in the forest, things like that sort of in suburban Michigan. And, with that, I always knew that I loved sort of building and piecing things together. So wanted to make a change in the world. Thought politics would actually be the best way to do it. So I went into politics at first.
Wow.
Found out that, surprise, surprise, that is not the
Like after college?
Right before, actually. So I
Okay.
started working very early on in Capitol Hill doing policy, and very quickly learned that my beautiful mental image of how politics could change the world was not quite how it played out in reality. So then I went to college. Then I figured out that, hey, this is really fun. I love building, and technology exists. We can build better, build faster. And that sort of led to startup idea number one, which we stumbled across. It wasn't intentional, didn't set out to ever build a startup. Ended up actually dropping out of college, so never finished my degree. And then the story goes from there. So that's the long roundabout version of who is Quinn. But hopefully I give some good detail.
Yeah, great. You wouldn't be the first tech guy to start a political party, so maybe that's in your future.
Well,
But let's go back. What was that first idea?
It was, so at the time, I was working on a project for a restaurant on campus, and they were having this huge issue where they had no idea how many things that they would sell in a certain week. And because they didn't know that, they were staffing incorrectly. They would have 20 servers show up and no patrons show up, or vice versa. They'd have one server show up and a million patrons. They would order food incorrectly, things like that. And it was a huge issue for them because they were seeing this really spiky behavior. So we built a demand forecast for them. We did this huge model that could sort of tell us how many burgers they'd sell at 3 p.m. on Friday based on the weather, the traffic, the schedule, and we could get it to a 95% accuracy. So that was idea number one, and that's where we really started.
Interesting. Okay. And then what got you to this? Is Tavis the next big idea?
Exactly. Tavis is the next one. And I'd say the first one was a much smaller idea. Tavis is really the big idea. So we sold that first company, and at the time I was thinking a little bit about what I wanted to do in my next step. And my co-founder and I had worked together before. We're very close friends. And what we were talking a lot about is just how humans communicate with technology. Right? Like, how do we use machines as tools? How do we talk to them? And I think I always had a lot of frustration growing up because I told you about my background being from Michigan, where, when I started using computers, it almost felt really restrictive, right? It felt like to solve cool problems, to work on cool things, I had to use computers, and they stood in the way of doing things as opposed to meeting me in the middle or meeting me where I am. So we spent a lot of time thinking about how could we teach machines how to be human? How can we give them eyes, give them ears, teach them how to listen, how to speak, and ultimately how to look like humans? And that's what really led to the idea of Tavis. And that's what we've been building here for the last 4 or 5 years, which is what we really refer to as an operating system for human AI interaction. So it's a real-time back and forth conversation with we call them replicas or digital humans, where it speaks to you in just such a way that you would speak to another human. And it's just as natural, just as effective, and an amazing conversation.
Interesting. So, God, I can think of a zillion use cases, but give me some of the prominent use cases that you have today.
So the use cases really come down to where would you love to have a human, but can't have one today, whether that is cost, scalability, availability, skill, things like that. And like a prime example of that is AI therapy, right?
Yeah.
I think in today's world, there's one therapist for every, I forget if it's 2 or 20,000 Americans, stat TBD. But that's a prime case where it's like, look, Americans can't afford a therapist. There's not one available to them. They don't know them well enough. AI therapy is sort of a prime, like, ideal use case. Now, where it's actually playing out is three main use cases. The first one we see is healthcare. So left and right. So patient intake, we're seeing AI nutrition, coaches, we're seeing companionship, things like that. The second use case, and the one that I get the most excited about, is education. So whether this is corporate training and L&D, all the way to K through 12, having a tutor available to a student. And then the third bucket and the third use case we see quite a bit is recruiting and interviewing. So being able to run a better, more thorough recruiting process. So those are the three buckets that we see pop up a lot. And it really, again, comes back to those are places where AI has tried to be effective, but ultimately doesn't necessarily deliver what's needed and what a human would. And that's where really a digital human is needed.
Interesting. Yeah, I've told the story on the show before. My daughter, actually, both my daughters take French, which if I speak any other language, it would be Spanish. So I am like of no help to them. And so my daughter's now in French 3. She's far beyond anything I can do, but she'll struggle with her work. And I'm like, just ask ChatGPT. She's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, just ask it the question you're asking me. And the beauty of it as a tutor is that you can ask the dumbest, most basic questions. I feel like part of the challenge being a student is that you're afraid to raise your hand because you're embarrassed that you don't know, or maybe the class got ahead of you and you're embarrassed that you're behind. But like talking to AI, no one cares. You can ask the same question 10 times if you're still not getting it, and it doesn't care.
Well, your daughter has made it further than me. I didn't make it past French 1, so I don't have too much in my dictionary besides Je m'appelle Quinn. So it sounds like you and I are both not the French wizards, but totally agree, right? I think and that's also where the human touch matters, right? Because really, we should not be having to adapt to machines, right? Like, if we want to say something, we should be able to talk, not have to type, right? We should be able to gesture instead of use emojis. And that's where really the efficacy of a digital human comes in. Because, in a language tutor, being able to understand the intricacies of human communication. Where are the pauses? How do we, sort of move our mouth or look while we're saying it? And having that fluid back and forth conversation where it's actually as if you are, talking to another human, and you're able to have that judgment-free advice whenever you want, even if it's midnight, and something that is affordable and accessible.
Yeah, interesting. So I know my show is targeted mostly at marketers and go-to-market executives and the go-to-market community. Certainly recruiting is very applicable to go-to-market in general. So let's talk about that use case, and then I'd love to hear more about what are you doing for go-to-market teams? How can we use this in business to make ourselves better marketers and sellers?
Recruiting is a great one. We are powering a lot of the companies out there, most of the companies out there who are doing digital recruiting and things like that. So whether that is providing an instant screen or a sourcer, we've been able to increase conversion rates on sort of that first interview, and then also give a much better candidate experience where they understand it. We're able to get better signals and understand if they are a good fit, and overall just have a great win-win. I think the go-to-market side is really exciting though. This is one where we've seen a lot of like cool, really innovative use cases. One that just popped up earlier today was AI inbound like sales rep, where you could land on a website and have this chatbot in the bottom right corner where you could talk to it immediately. And from there, it had the functionality to book a meeting for you, follow up on questions, give a good amount of data. So really across the customer journey, all the way from top of funnel, being able to answer specific webinar questions or educate users or get them excited about a product, all the way to sort of that middle bottom of the funnel where we're able to give better time spent, where it's like a virtual AE or a solution engineer or someone brainstorming, all the way then to customer success, where it's actually in a PLG motion, being able to actually give each user a personal CSM who actually gets to know them and their use case and is available to help them. So we're seeing a ton across the go-to-market funnel. And again, it's like, I feel like so many of these challenges have just previously been human constraint bound. Like we have 100,000 users. I would love to have a CSM talk to each and every one and get their feedback and help unblock them and answer their questions. But we're obviously not able to do that because we just don't have the resources to do that. And that's where the Tavis use case can be a perfect example.
Interesting. So we've had OneMind on the show. I'm sure you're familiar with OneMind, Amanda. We've also had Qualified on the show, which is kind of a more targeted AI SDR. It sounds a little bit like yours is more of like a platform that I can decide. It's not purposely built to be an AI SDR. It's more of a really powerful piece of technology that I can conform to my needs. Is that a fair statement?
Spot on. We're not building an application layer. So we're not
Okay.
building, the AI SDR. We're not building, the OneMind or anything like that. We're building the models that can power those use cases. So what we actually go in and do is we build digital human infrastructure. That means we have models that help, create the actual visual representation. We have models that give it the eyes through perception. And what we then do is, label those APIs and let other people build on top of it or, build with it. So an example here is like if OneMind wants to, add AI sort of like humans to their platform, it could just use the Tavis system or the Tavis platform and then, build with that instead of having to go in and figure out how do we, build avatars, how do we build humans, how do we, handle text to speech and this, that. So we're handling really the platform layer of it where people can then use that.
Okay, so this is great. I get it. But I do think for marketers, it can be intimidating. I mean, AI is already intimidating, right? That's why we're all listening to this podcast, because we're all trying to learn and figure it out. I would say in some ways, it's easier for me to just say, oh, I need an AI SDR. I'm going to go buy Qualified versus, oh, the opportunities are endless. I got to go build it. So I guess what resources are required to go get Tavis? Are you mostly selling to big companies that have teams that say, hey, I want one platform. I'm going to build all of my agents and all of my AI use cases on it. And I'm a big company. Like, what is your go-to-market strategy and how do you sell to big companies and smaller teams that don't have those resources?
Yeah, it's a terrific question. In today's world, we sell to a really broad range of companies. Some of them are smaller startups, 10, 15, 20 people. Other ones are huge enterprises like Amazon or Alibaba. And with that, typically though, we'll sell either, a use case or a solution for them. So we'll work with them to help them build the AI SDR, even though I sort of hate that example. I don't think it's a great use of the technology, but using that as like the cliche example here and build it into their product offering where they can use it with their end users and it becomes part of their core product. And an example of this is, there's a lot of sales coaching tools out there, right? Like Orem, Gong, ones like that. Like a lot of folks like that are trying to build in these, like coaches or trainers there where they can then offer this as a product to their end users. Like that's an example where we would work with them. Where we need to do a lot better of a job is making Tavis easier to use out of the box where you don't have to be an engineer. You can go in and talk to it and say, hey, I want a digital human. I want them to do this. I want them to look like that. And I want them to serve me here. And you'll see a lot of improvements coming there over the next few months, which I think is really exciting and something I'd tell anyone listening to check back in on. But in today's world, you do have to be able to use APIs or like basic technology in order to really deploy a digital human. But I think a lot of that will change in the
Yeah.
paradigm.
Well, we're certainly early days here with all of this technology. I guess in my mind, I'm sort of thinking about it, and this might be an unfair comparison, but I'm sort of thinking about the Salesforce platform slash ecosystem as a comparison of, you could buy Sales Cloud or Service Cloud or all the things they bought. But if you're an IT team and you want to build some new like compensation and then companies started, third party companies started building apps, but it all was integrated on the Salesforce platform. Sounds similar, although the possibilities now with AI are just so much more endless. You can cover such a bigger swath of what you're doing in the company. And it also sounds like it'll be a lot easier to just spin things up.
Totally. And I haven't thought too much about that specific use case, but I think a lot about like internally at Tavis. Whenever we say we want to go make a hire, right, or we want to do blank, my question is always, well, Why can't we do that today? Like, what is blocking us from doing that? So, on the marketing side, for example, we've been running a really big market research project, and we want to hire someone for it. We want to do X, Y, Z. So, my question to the team was, okay, why can we not use a Tavis AI human to do this? What are our blockers? And then really building around that. And those are the use cases in which, I really see a huge, huge excitement around in the coming few months.
I was having a conversation with two friends on text, and one of them is running an engineering team, and she's continually blown away by what AI can do. And I said, eventually, there's going to be one person billion-dollar companies because you don't need all of those teams. I mean, even this podcast, I've talked about it before, and people are calling me all the time. Hey, I want to pick your brain. How did you do your podcast? Did you hire a team? And I'm like, no, I literally went to ChatGPT and said, how do I start a podcast? And then it suggested Riverside and then Buzzsprout. And one of these days, I'm going to do a little podcast about how I made this. It was like I hired someone to tell me how to completely launch a podcast, how to put it out there, how to talk about it, how to improve it. I have no one on my team. I do it all myself. I edit with a button. I could pretty much do this whole thing by just having a conversation with ChatGPT.
I think obviously like there's a lot of ambiguity and unknowns on what does AI look like, how does this change the world. But I think about, like, for myself personally, the way that I work today and what I am able to accomplish is so exponentially different than even 1 year ago, 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, 3 years ago. The way I'm able to get answers, move more effectively, have tools to help me work better and with higher quality, it's night and day, right? And you've seen it as well. Even just being able to know where to start in the sense of, creating a podcast, because ChatGPT is able to help point you to the best tools. It is such a beautiful difference from what it used to be. I get really, really frustrated with AI is the fact that there's so many advancements every day where
Mm-hmm.
there's so much noise that I don't know what I should or shouldn't be looking at. And I think I call it frustration, but really that's the excitement. The pace at which things are moving, the pace at which evolutions and advancements are happening is so incredible. I've never seen anything like it in the sense of the industry moving so fast.
Yeah, I totally agree. I did have a back and forth with my friend who basically was saying it's going to replace all jobs. You're not even going to need one person to have a successful company, which I strongly debate because the original thought and the original ideas come from the human beings. This podcast would never exist if I hadn't said, hey, I think there's a real need to educate marketers about the new and awesome technology. And that was my original thought. And I have booked these guests, right? AI has, to your point, made it so easy for me to execute on this idea and this original work that I had. But the original work came from me. And I think that's the big distinction that gets lost when people say that AI is coming for our jobs. My opinion is that AI is only going to help us get our own original thought and our own original ideas and work and creativity out there faster and better. And it's making our world a better place because it amplifies the creativity of human beings and lets us execute. And I'm kind of belaboring the point because I feel so strongly about it. I was an English major. I am a writer. One of my skills has been writing, and I use AI all the time to help me write. And sometimes I'm like, God, I should be against it. I'm a writer. But it's the beauty is that the original thoughts and ideas are coming from me. And if it gets written better and faster, why would I not want that? Because the original thought and getting it across is what matters.
Exactly. AI is meant to be an extension of humans and empower humans. It's not meant to replace humans. And of course, it's a scary concept. The world will look very different in 5 years, and the way that we work will look very different. Maybe
Very.
it's not a 9 to 5, 40-hour week. Maybe it looks like something else because we have things that help us automate work or work faster. And that will change. It always has. During the Industrial Revolution, during different eras, like
Yep.
there's always evolutions and there's always advancements. And, I think if someone argues to me that, they are going to have their, 9 to 5 job taken where they work, on work that they don't find interesting under a fluorescent light, my argument is humans were never built to do that in the first place. So I totally agree with you. AI is such an amazing tool to, be more creative, to work on different things. And at the end of the day, though, humans are very special, very ambiguous, very beautiful beings that have original thought. And that's what makes us special, not the fact that we can do a monotonous task every day.
I 100% agree. And I'm glad that we're sort of ending. We started with AI can, think of something a human can do, and now let's figure out how AI can do it, which is incredible. And it's part of why our world is going to change so much. But I love that we're ending with the importance of humans still directing what happens and bringing out all of our strengths in a way that we can make the world a better place even faster. Back to your original comment about politics.
Exactly. And I'll wrap it up. I'll say that's why I am so excited about a lot of what we do at Tavis, because we're not just building a point solution. Like, we're giving people and companies the tools that they need to then have a ripple effect on others. And I think when you talk about being able to make a positive change on the world, like I couldn't think of a better spot. And that's what's really exciting.
That's great. That's a full circle moment for you. I'm glad you found a way to get there, because I know many of us want to make the world a better place. So I'm happy for you that you are doing this. And I want to try it out myself with some ideas. So tell us, how do we find you?
Yes. So Tavis.io, Tavus.io. Check it out there. There's a live demo. Talk to it. It's amazing. It's really such a magical moment where it's a little hard to describe. I don't think everyone listening right now fully groks what we do, and I haven't done the best job of explaining it, but give it a shot. Try it for yourself. And then if you want to build on it, we have, self-serve plans that you can get started on for free, or you can reach out to me directly and I'll make sure you get set up properly.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to try it out. Thank you so much. It was great to have you on the show.
Amazing. Thanks, Stacey.